Hi, I'm Tom, and today I would like to show you how to replace a defective motor in a popcorn popper. I'm going to try to do the best I can with a single iPhone to show you all the details. But first thing, let's check out this bad boy right here. So that's about as bad as it gets right there. That's a failing motor. And what I've done is I've sourced motors and had them fabricated in China. This is the old motor. You're going to notice these two foam strips that I'm going to have to tell you about. This is the new motor. It does the same thing. It's a slightly superior 120 volt DC motor, which is kind of hard to get. So let's go through motor replacement. This is not hard. It takes 15 to 20 minutes, let's say, but since I've taken a lot of these apart, I know these little things that you want to pay attention to get the best results. If you do a really good job with this, it's going to have a lot more roasts. If you pull on wires and throw it together, throw it back together, you may not have as good results or no good results at all. So let's go through it right now. Okay, so the first thing is obviously I'm going to unplug the machine. Secondly, I'm going to turn it upside down. And third thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take a little flathead screwdriver here. I'm going to pop off these 4 rubber feet. They're just pushed in. And that reveals the screws that are part of taking apart the main body. Now I think this is called a number 1 or number 0 screwdriver. It's the narrower screwdriver you get with a set, not the one that works so well on drywall and stuff. You can start right here with these 2 screws. These mainly, they connect the bottom and the front control panel, or PCBA, as it's called, the control board. Then you need to get into here, and it's important to kind of feel out these small 4 screws in here. In fact, I used to have trouble with the Phillips and use a flathead, a tiny flathead like this sort of jeweler's flathead to get these. But this seems to work pretty good. They're just kind of like wood screws basically going into plastic. And then when you feel that and it comes off, you know you got them all. Now those are going to probably stay in there, and you may lose them when you invert this, so let's be careful. So we're into the popper now. And you can gently take it apart, and if you don't force it, but you can see that you can actually get in there. Now, the first thing you should do is you should undo this connector here. There's a ribbon connector right there. You see this, you're going to need to pinch this down and pull it out. Now, people who do electronics and are more careful than me know that you want to be gentle with connectors. So, do you see this? You push it, you push this in, you pinch it at the top, and then pull it out without yanking on the wires, okay? And there's only one way that goes back in. So now we've got this apart and we can put it aside. Now, what are we looking at here? We have the roast chamber, this insulation jacket. This is the thermal sensor, something that causes it to cut out early, and maybe we want to reposition that when we put it back together, and I'll show you how to do that. And there's one control panel in there, one in here. So the first thing we're going to do is we need to take these off. Now, I have discovered, and I did not know this, that a lot of slide-on spade connectors are now locked in place. Now, these 2 do not seem to be, so they come off very easily. Let's put this aside. And getting to the motor means taking apart this entire assembly here. As you can see, let me move this over here. Here's one that's apart. Yeah, so, you know, we take these off, we remove the jacket, and then this is what's going on in there, is you have this housing, the heat coil that goes in there, and then here is the fan attached there in this white housing, and here's the fan motor. So that's what we're trying to get to. But to get it out, we have to take off the fan, this circular fan, and we have to undo a couple screws there. So that's what we'll be doing over here. Okay. So what is next? Well, I guess I could have done this before, but you do actually want to take off the 3 screws in here. There it is. Okay, now those screws are going to fall out, so I want to make sure I save those. There we go. Now we have 3 screws here, 1, 2, 3, that we need to take apart. There we go. Now, I want you to notice some things here. If you can not take this all apart, it's much better. Here's your heating coil, which is above your fan. This is a little thermal cutoff for overheat. These 3 ceramic spacers here, it's really good if you can be gentle with those. I think the best thing is just to slide them off, because what happens is if you knock them, it tends to break the little plastic post that they're on. Okay. Now the point we're at now is where we need to take the fan off. I usually do this with a couple flathead screwdrivers, but let's see if I can. Well, first of all, what I found is that, let's look at this here. Can you see how the motor has these splines on it, the fan blade? So it's just a kind of a splined connection there. Sometimes these come off real easily and sometimes they don't. This one looks like, oh, it does, okay. The thing is as you pull and flex this, it tends to kind of hold on there more. I did it that way, but a lot of times what I'll do is I'll put 2 screwdrivers under and pull it off, because it needs to just come straight off. And one of the things here that you'll see with the fan motor failure issue is carbon. That carbon is from the motor itself, and that's a sign of the motor failing under the conditions. So next thing we do is we're going to take these 2 screws off. They're very short little machine screws. There we go. And the motor can now release. In fact, it just released. Now, I know a lot of times it's actually stuck in there because these very important insulating straps, they help keep the motor from vibrating. And it's you're going to have to actually attach those yourselves on the new motor. We're going to send you the strips, which we had them send from China. And it's good if you can just keep everything like here together. Let me see how I do with this, because, okay. So you have the 2 motor connectors. You notice the red one is on top. And these type of spade connectors, you want to pinch them right above and then try pulling them off. If you don't get it right away. Okay, that took a little more force than I thought, but there is a release. And let me see if I can put up a photo here of that, because I was not familiar with it. There it is, bad motor. So, we'll be giving you these strips. And as you notice, what you want to do is apply these 2 strips. It doesn't matter where, except they should be in the same, they should not cover any of the holes in the motor. Okay, so we're gonna put one here, and it should be pre-cut around the top to go all the way around. There we go. And the other one goes right here at this level. There we go. We're ready to go back in. Now this motor is longer, and it also, as you'll notice, the old motor has only 2 holes. This one has 4 mounting holes. So ideally, you want to think about using this in this hole. I don't think it matters that much. It's just a matter of the wires coming out the right place. So I'm going to feed that in, and you see these outer ridges there. They kind of help center the motor, and you'll want to line it up with those holes, which looks like right. Whoops, I'm off. There we go. Okay, I've got those lined up. I'm going to be pushing the back of the motor up. Not just relying on the screws grabbing it. Okay, and I'm actually going to use my little flathead screwdriver on that. I have over tightened those once before. Now it's time to put the fan back in. I'm going to actually, well, I would normally wipe this down. Now this is kind of important, to let the fan find the spleens and to push very firmly and evenly down. And then test it. And that feels very good. It's moving freely. So now I am ready to basically do the opposite. Okay, now you'll notice here, okay, you see here, there's this protrusion here. This is gonna go on top of it, and then this is gonna go on top of here. But I have forgotten something, it's important. Now that I have it kind of in place, I need to not forget my spacers. There we go. Because those are keeping the fan at the right distance. Okay. So I can see that I'm actually a little bit off. It kind of, there we go. What I find sometimes is that these little zip ties there that are connecting kind of get in your way. If you're fighting them, you could cut them. I'm going to take my machine screws. I'm going to start putting those back in.
Just a couple more turns, so let me do this one. You're kind of getting the machine there.
Okay, feels like those are all down. I'm going to put my new 2 connectors, the reds on top. Black on the bottom there. Okay. And to position this, there's actually one of the feet has a small little ridge on it. That goes right here. You can see how it matches up. Your wires, you shouldn't be forcing anything here. So if something's wrong, reroute the wires down below. I also want you to note at this time that your cord is going to need to find this spot here. So you might as well be ready for that. Now I wanted to note something else here is while I'm at it, I just dropped a screw. Why not reposition my thermal sensor a little? Because the higher up it is on the chamber, gives a little more allowance for a little more heat. And of course, usually I can just grab this and it goes, but for some reason I can't today.
All it takes is loosening this one little
Screw, that's the bracket, and sliding it up a little. And you can actually, if you really want to make this effective, loosen it a lot. And what you'll notice here is there's a flat side here that the thermostat, this thermal cutoff switch, is pushing up against. And if you actually force this whole thing, loosen it a lot, make the whole bracket go above, so it's kind of making, in a sense, less contact, because now that thermal switch is backing up to the rounded part, you'll actually get a little more temperature leeway with the machine. Whoops, my fan's just turned on. So having it slitted up, it's going to be a little harder to get these on, but they still do reach. And if these feel loose to you at all, that's bad, because when it slides on, because your coil voltage actually goes through here. And if that is loose, you're going to be losing power. So I'm going to give them a little pinch, put these little silicone boots back on. Oh, I forgot. I have to put this on first. Now the other thing is that when you raise this, you have to actually cut this a little. I used to do this with scissors. Now I just grab it with my fingernails, take a little bit of a notch out. I actually have to take these off. Okay. Let's put that back on. That has a notch too that goes right in there. I did seem to rotate it a little, but it's still fine. I'm still holding this on to the base because those screws are off. Now I'm going to reattach this. Everything I just did there is bonus material. That is not necessary to do all that. Okay. I'm going to carefully turn this over while holding it and attach my 3 screws. 1.
Maybe I can fast forward past this spot and get that to drop in there, right? Okay, there's 1.
There are 2 types of screws. I don't know if you're going to be able to see this. These ones here are for the legs. These ones with slightly wider head are for these connectors here. These the feet that hold this in. So that is now attached. Now, okay, so we need to reconnect this. There's only one way it can go. The little clip goes, as it's standing upright, it goes on the downside. Let me slide that in. Just clicks in, no force. Now this is important here. Let's make sure the cord is back in correctly. We're going to slide this over the top at a slight angle. We're going to let it go down. Now, as you do this, sometimes this can become a struggle and sometimes it just goes right in. What you need to do is this rim needs to line up here, making sure that's centered while you're kind of looking at how it's fitting down here. Kind of drop it in. And keep a hand up here as you sort of work it from here. Some of these just go perfectly. Some of them can be a real hassle. It could be that you have a wire out of place. This cord could be out of place. And then you want to go back up here and make sure that's seated. Now you can see this looks pretty good. You see it's just a little bit there, but I'm not forcing anything, and it really has come back together just fine. So feel good about that before you continue. And now we can start with these two if we want. That's just fine. These are the big, these are a specific screw. I think I dropped one.
As you can see, these are a, I can't remember what you call it. Not a pinhead. Someone help me out. You got those?
And then we're going to be putting our small little guys in here. Now sometimes these stay in. It's really hard to see in this light. Sometimes they're still in there, so you go to put it in and you can't get it to screw in because the screw's already still in there.
And a few times when I've taken apart a popper multiple times, these get a little stripped, but they're not that critical. I mean, it's important to have at least, let's say, 3 of them grabbing nicely. But they're essentially like screws going into plastic, so you can over-torque them. Okay.
Now we do want to get our rubber feet back in, but it would be good to test it before we do that, just in case we had to take it apart again. Feeling pretty good about this. Let's plug it in, and let's listen to what we have. Okay, moment of truth. So you remember what it sounded like before. Let's put 9 minutes on. Oh, that's beautiful. It's a great sound. Fantastic. Heat's on. Sounds good. So that's it. Basically another, hopefully 300 roasts or something. Another 50 pounds of coffee, 40 pounds of coffee. $5 motor. So thanks for watching, and if you have any questions, please ask in the comments and I will reply. If anything was unclear, let me know. Thanks.